Hey, tonight you're not in your bed. You're in a hall of polished limestone, kneeling on cool marble. The air around you smells of lotus flowers, incense, and something else, fear. You are a queen of Egypt, a goddess on earth, but you own nothing. Not your future, not your body, and not even your own name. The heavy gold on your wrists feels less like jewelry and more like shackles. Every whisper in the palace could be a prayer or a plot. You think you know the story of ancient queens, all beauty and reverence, but the truth is far darker. By the time the sun rises, you'll understand why the most powerful women in the ancient world were also its most gilded prisoners. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to subscribe if you enjoy these strange, quiet dives into the past. It means more than you know. And let me know in the comments what time it is, where you are. It's always fascinating to see who is listening with me in the quiet of the night. Now dim the lights. Let the world outside fade away. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. You are not just listening to history. You are the queen, and the gods are watching your every move. Your room has no window to the world. It looks out onto a courtyard, a manicured garden, where every leaf seems to have been placed just so. The limestone floor is cool beneath your feet, a brief comfort before the Egyptian heat seeps in. You don't wake to the sound of roosters or the bustle of the street. You wake in a curated silence, a quiet that is heavier than any noise. The air is fragrant with lotus blossoms from clay vases and the faint scent of perfumed oils. But beneath that, there is another smell, the smell of old stone of confinement. Your bed linens are the finest weave, softer than anything a commoner has ever touched. But as you sit up, you don't feel luxury. You feel its weight. Handmaidens move around you like ghosts, soundless. Their eyes always lowered, but you know they are watching. They help you dress, comb your long hair, and fasten jewelry of gold and lapis lazuli. Each piece is cold and heavy, a reminder of your status, and also of your shackles. You are never truly alone. Even in your most private moments, there are always eyes watching. Is the queen happy? Is she plotting? Is she too thin, too tired, or too quiet? You walk through corridors, decorated with vibrant frescoes of gods and battles. But these walls are not just for decoration. They are eyes. The gods are watching. The pharaohs of the past are judging. The palace is not your home. It is a temple, and you are both its priestess and its sacrifice. You have everything a woman could dream of: silks, jewels, nominal power, but you lack the one thing. The poorest peasant has the freedom to walk out into the street and disappear into the crowd. You are a treasure, carefully kept, polished daily, and displayed when necessary. But a treasure, no matter how precious, is still an object. It has no will of its own. Your breakfast is not a meal. It is a ritual of mistrust. Servants bring the food on plates of silver and gold. There are sweet figs, rich dates, fine white bread baked with honey, and a carafe of wine diluted with cool water from the palace's deepest well. A feast fit for a god. But you do not eat, not yet. You wait. A servant, the food taster, steps forward. He bows, then slowly takes a piece from every dish. He chews, thoughtfully swallows, and then waits in silence. The entire room seems to hold its breath. All eyes are on him, not with curiosity, but searching for a sign, a twitch, a grimace, a bead of sweat. You watch him, your heart beating a slow, heavy rhythm. This is part of your daily life, a reminder that even the food in your mouth could be an enemy. After a few moments that stretch into an eternity, the servant bows again. It is safe, great queen. Only then are you permitted to eat, but the flavor is gone. The sweetness of the fig is now just relief. The aroma of the bread is just emptiness. You eat not because you are hungry, but because it is your role. You must maintain your health, sustain your life, not for yourself, but for the kingdom, for the pharaoh's bloodline. You sip the wine. It is cool, but it does not soothe the simmering heat of vigilance in your chest. Around you the courtiers and servants remain reverent, but you know that among those bowed heads there might be one who had hoped the food taster would fall. Power does not bring you safety. It only brings you more sophisticated enemies, and your meal, however lavish, is just another battlefield. After the meal, you do not rest. You prepare for your duties, and a queen's most important duty is not to rule, but to worship. You are led to your dressing chamber, where priestesses await. They dress you in complex ceremonial robes, layers of pristine white linen, a wide collar of gold, and precious stones called a usek, and an elaborate wig. Your makeup is applied meticulously. The dark kohl lining your eyes is not just for beauty. It is believed to protect you from the evil eye. Your skin is anointed with scented oils. You are no longer a woman. You are becoming a symbol, a conduit between the mortal world and the divine realm. You enter the temple. The air inside is cool and thick with the smell of incense. Giant pillars rise like the trunks of a sacred forest, carved with hieroglyphs that tell the stories of the gods. The only light comes from flickering torches creating shadows that dance on the walls. You approach the altar. As the wife of the pharaoh, you are the earthly embodiment of a goddess, perhaps Isis, the faithful wife, or Hathor, the goddess of love and joy. Your role is to perform the rites that ensure the gods are pleased, that the sun will rise each day, that the Nile will flood, and that the kingdom will have a good harvest. You offer gifts to the gods, bread beer, lotus flowers. You recite prayers you have known since you were a child. Your voice echoes in the temple's quiet. Every word, every gesture must be perfect. A small mistake could be seen as a bad omen, a sign that you have displeased the gods. And the displeasure of the gods could bring famine, plague, or war. The burden is immense. You are not just praying for yourself. You are carrying the fate of millions on your shoulders. As you stand there among the smoke and the prayers, you feel the weight of 1,000 years of tradition. You are a link in an endless chain. But you also know that one weak link can break the whole thing. But this afternoon, something is different. The silence in the palace has a new tension to it. A messenger has arrived from the north, from the land of the Hittites. He is covered in dust from the road, but his eyes are sharp as daggers. He carries a sealed scroll, a proposal of marriage for one of your daughters. It is not a request, it is a political move. You sit beside the pharaoh, watching his impassive face as he reads the scroll. You see a small line form between his brows. He says nothing, but you feel the shift in the air. A decision is coming, one that will reshape alliances and perhaps ignite a war. Later, as you walk through the inner gardens, you hear the whispers of the handmaidens. One of the pharaoh's lesser wives, a young foreign princess, has just given birth, and they say it is a boy, a healthy boy. Your heart sinks. You have given the pharaoh 2 daughters. Beautiful, intelligent, but daughters. A male heir is everything. If that child survives your position, and that of your daughters is threatened, your gilded cage has just become a little smaller. That night, as you lie in bed, you listen to the pharaoh's dry cough from the next room, a cough that seems to grow weaker each day. You realize a cold truth. Stability is an illusion. Your power is as fragile as a thread, and the shadows on the wall are growing longer. The real game has just begun. You are 14 years old when your father the pharaoh summons you to the great hall. He doesn't look at you. He looks at a map spread across a stone table, a map of deserts and rivers that you have only ever seen in scrolls. His finger rests on a kingdom far to the north, a place of cold mountains and fierce warriors, the Hittites. He tells you that you will marry. It is not a question. It is a statement, as final as a stone being set in a temple wall. Your husband will be a prince from that distant land, a man you have never met, whose language you barely speak, whose gods you do not know. This is not about love. This is about peace. Your body is a treaty. Your womb is a promise of alliance. You do not cry. You do not protest. Queens do not have the luxury of feelings. They have duties. You nod your head heavy with the weight of the wig and the future that has just been decided for you. Your mother looks at you with an expression you cannot read. Is it pride pity, or is it the cold calculation of a woman who knows this is how the game is played? The preparations begin, not for a wedding, but for a state transaction. Chests are filled with Egyptian linen so fine it feels like water. Jewelry is brought from the royal treasury, gold collars, lapis lazuli rings, carnelian beads. These are not gifts of affection. They are part of your dowry, a display of Egypt's wealth, a price paid for a fragile peace. When the foreign prince arrives, his skin is paler than yours. His clothes are made of heavy wool, and he smells of strange spices and snow. He looks at you not as a bride, but as a territory he has just acquired. The wedding ceremony is a grand cold affair. Priests chant hymns to gods from two different lands, their voices mixing in the vast temple, but their prayers never meeting. Your hand is placed in his. His is cool and rough, the hand of a soldier, not a lover. The crowd watches. The scribes record it. Two kingdoms are being joined, but two people are being erased. That night, you lie in a strange bed, in a strange room, next to a stranger. You stare into the darkness and listen to the foreign sounds of a palace that is not your home. You are a queen. You are a wife. But you are also an exile, a piece of political property shipped to a foreign shore. The first of many chains has just been locked into place, and you did not even hear the click. Before the marriage contract to a foreign prince, there was another possibility, one more intimate, and in its own way more terrifying. Your father, in the cool, echoing throne room, might have looked not at a map, but at his own son. Your brother. He would tell you that the blood of the gods, the sacred ichor that flows through your veins, cannot be thinned by the murky waters of mortal men. It must be kept pure. It must be kept within the family. The idea does not shock you, not in the way it would a modern soul. You have been raised with this truth. The gods themselves married their siblings, Isis and Osiris, Set and Nephthys. To emulate them is not a sin. It is a sacred duty. And yet a quiet, cold knot tightens in your stomach. This is the boy you grew up with, the one who stole your figs and teased you in the palace gardens. His hand, which you once held as you ran through the corridors, will now be the hand of your husband. His face, as familiar as your own reflection in the polished copper mirror, will be the face you see across from you for the rest of your life, not as a brother, but as your lord. The court acts as if this is the most natural union in the world. The preparations are even more grand than for a foreign alliance. This is not a treaty of peace. This is a reaffirmation of divine right. The priests chant hymns about the sky marrying the earth. The nobles bow lower their eyes, filled with a reverence that feels heavy, suffocating. They see two halves of a divine entity being made whole. You see a boy you once knew, now a stranger in the same body. During the ceremony, you are draped in layers of the finest linen. Your wig is heavy with gold threads, and your collar is a brilliant tapestry of carnelian and turquoise. You are the picture of royal splendor. You are a symbol of Egypt's eternal stability. You play the part perfectly. You stand beside your brother, the pharaoh-to-be, and you do not tremble. You recite the vows from memory. Your voice is steady, a low melodic hum that fills the temple. He takes your hand. It is warm, the same hand that once pushed you into a lotus pond in jest. Now it feels different. It feels like a cage. That night, the silence is the loudest thing in the room. The usual awkwardness of a wedding night is amplified by a lifetime of shared memories that now feel forbidden. The air is thick with the scent of myrrh and the unspoken tension of a line that has been crossed. You are meant to create a new dynasty, a line of god-kings, purer than any before. But you lie there listening to his breathing, and all you can think about are the stories of what such purity can cost. You have seen the children of royal siblings before. Some are born with frail bodies, with clubbed feet, with minds that wander in the shadows. The gods may be divine, but their earthly vessels are still fragile flesh and bone. This is the misery of your duty. You are commanded to preserve the sacred bloodline, even if it means you are poisoning it from within. You look at your new husband, your brother, and you see not a king, but the beginning of a potential tragedy. A tragedy you are now bound to by law, by religion, and by blood. You close your eyes and pray not for love or for happiness, but for healthy children. Because in this gilded cage, a healthy heir is the only form of salvation you can hope for. Your marriage is not a union of hearts. It is a sacrifice to the past in the desperate hope of securing a future. And you are the offering. Your marriage is sealed. Your duties in the temple are complete. But your true test, the one upon which your entire existence hinges, has just begun. You must produce an heir. Not just any heir. A son. A boy to carry the divine blood of the Pharaoh, to take the double crown to keep the cosmic order Ma'at in balance. Without him, you are incomplete. You are a beautiful vessel, but an empty one. The entire kingdom waits. The court watches you with 1,000 silent eyes. Every month that passes without news of a pregnancy is a quiet failure. The priests make offerings on your behalf, burning incense to Min, the god of fertility. The handmaidens whisper prayers as they dress you. They study your body for signs, for any hint that a new god is stirring within you. The pressure is a physical weight, a constant low hum of expectation that follows you from the moment you wake until you fall into a restless sleep. Your husband the Pharaoh comes to your chambers at night. There is no romance, no tenderness. It is a duty, a sacred and mechanical act performed for the sake of the empire. He leaves as silently as he came, and you are left alone in the darkness, praying that this time the gods have been merciful. Then one morning it is confirmed. You are with child. A wave of relief washes over the court. The priests announce it in the temples. The nobles offer their congratulations, their smiles thin and sharp, their eyes calculating. Your status rises overnight. You are no longer just the great royal wife. You are the mother of the future king. But the relief is fleeting, replaced by a new, more intense anxiety. It must be a boy. Your life becomes a ritual of protection. You wear amulets of Taweret, the hippopotamus goddess of childbirth, her fierce protective form meant to ward off evil spirits. You eat special foods, dates, honey-rich grains, all believed to encourage a strong male child. You are not allowed to do anything that might risk the pregnancy. You walk slowly through the gardens. You are shielded from bad news. You are cocooned in a world of whispers and prayers, all focused on the tiny, unseen life inside you. The day of the birth arrives. You are taken to the birthing chamber, a private sacred space. Midwives surround you. They chant, they sing, they hold your hands. The pain is a fire that consumes you for hours, but you do not scream. A queen must endure. You squat on the birthing bricks, pushing with a strength you did not know you possessed, your entire being focused on this one single outcome. Finally, the baby comes. A small wailing cry cuts through the thick, incense-filled air. There is a moment of silence as the midwife examines the child. And then she turns to you, her expression a careful mask of diplomacy. She bows. It is a healthy child, great queen. A daughter. A daughter. The word hangs in the air, heavy and cold. A daughter is a princess. A daughter can be used for a political marriage. But a daughter cannot rule, not in this world. A silent, crushing disappointment settles over the room. The Pharaoh, who had been waiting outside, is informed. He does not enter. He simply turns and walks away. You are left with your child, this beautiful, perfect tiny girl. You hold her close, and you love her with a fierce, protective fire. But you also know the truth. You have failed. The court will smile, but they will be watching you waiting. The rival wives in the harem, the ones with sons from lesser bloodlines, will see their own stars begin to rise as yours dims. Your duty is not over. It has just become more desperate. You must try again, and again, and again. Until you produce the son the kingdom demands. Your life is no longer your own. It is a relentless cycle of pregnancy and prayer, of hope and failure. You look down at your beautiful daughter, and you see not just a child, but a symbol of your own precarious existence. You are a queen, but your crown rests on the fragile hope of a son who has not yet been born. The time comes again. Your body, a vessel for the hopes of an empire, is once more with child. The rituals begin anew. The amulets are polished, the prayers are chanted, and the court holds its collective breath. But this time, the quiet anxiety that hummed beneath the surface has grown into a roar of fear inside you. You have seen other women in the palace go to the birthing chamber and never return. You have heard the muffled sobs of a handmaiden whose sister, a princess from a foreign land, bled to death after delivering a stillborn son. You know that childbirth is not a miracle. It is a battle fought in blood and pain, and one that many women, even queens, do not survive. There is no sterile operating room. There is only the mesquinet, the birthing room. It is a small, quiet chamber, often in a secluded part of the palace. The walls are sometimes painted with images of protective deities, Taweret, the fierce, pregnant hippo, and Bes, the dwarf god, who wards off evil spirits. The air is thick with the smoke of burning incense meant to purify the space and appease the gods, but it does nothing to calm the frantic beating of your heart. You are not lying down in a comfortable bed. You are squatting on a pair of birthing bricks, two large flat stones that allow gravity to aid in the delivery. It is a position of immense strain and vulnerability. Midwives, old women, with hands like worn leather and eyes that have seen everything surround you. They are your only doctors. Their knowledge has been passed down through generations. They know which herbs to brew to ease the pain, which chants to whisper to encourage the baby's descent. They massage your back with scented oils and murmur words of encouragement. But their knowledge has its limits. If something goes wrong, they have no tools beyond their hands and their prayers. There are no forceps, no C-sections, no blood transfusions. A baby in the wrong position, a hemorrhage that will not stop an infection that sets in after these are death sentences. The labor begins. The pain is a wave that crashes over you again and again, pulling you under. You grip the hands of the midwives, your knuckles white. You focus on your breathing, trying to ride the pain instead of letting it consume you. Hours pass. The sun sets, and the room is lit only by the flickering light of oil lamps, casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. The midwives' chants grow more urgent. You can hear the worry in their voices, a subtle shift in tone that sends a jolt of ice through your veins. Something is wrong. The baby is not coming. Panic begins to coil in your gut, cold and sharp. The midwives try everything they know. They change your position. They press on your abdomen. They call on the names of the gods with increasing desperation. But the gods are silent. You are a queen, a goddess on earth. But in this moment, you are just a woman trapped in a body that is betraying you. You are bleeding too much. You feel your strength ebbing away, the world at the edges of your vision growing dark. You think of your other children. You think of your husband, the pharaoh waiting for news of a son. You think of the rival wife who will ascend if you die. You fight. You push. With the last ounce of your strength, a primal scream tearing from your throat, a sound no queen is ever supposed to make. And then a sudden release, a final wrenching surge, and the baby is born. But the room is silent. There is no cry. The midwife holds the child, a small, still, perfectly formed boy. He is the heir you prayed for, and he is gone before he ever took a breath. Your grief is a bottomless ocean, but you have no time to drown in it. You are still bleeding. The midwives work frantically, pressing cloths, soaked in herbs, against you, chanting desperately. You feel a strange calm settle over you. The pain fades. The voices grow distant. You are floating, drifting away from the smoke, the blood, the sorrow. You have fulfilled your duty, and you have paid the ultimate price. As you close your eyes, you see the field of reeds, the Egyptian paradise, shimmering in the distance. Your journey is over, and in the palace, the whispers will begin. The queen is dead. The gods were not pleased. You survived childbirth. You presented the pharaoh with a son. For a moment, your position feels secure. You are the great royal wife, the mother of the heir. The court bows to you. The nobles seek your favor. But you are not foolish enough to believe this peace will last. Your security is an illusion, a thin layer of ice over a dark, churning sea of ambition. And that sea is the royal harem. The harem is not the fantasy of silks and scented oils that foreign poets write about. It is a political institution, a serpent's nest filled with women who are all playing the same deadly game. You may be the most powerful, but you are not the only one. There are the lesser wives' daughters of powerful Egyptian nobles, their marriages designed to secure internal alliances. There are the foreign princesses sent from Babylon Mitanni, or the land of the Hittites, their bodies used as currency in international treaties. They are all beautiful, all clever, and all hungry. They live together in a separate wing of the palace, a world within a world governed by its own complex hierarchy. You rule this world, but your rule is constantly being tested. Every day is a silent war, fought with whispers, glances, and gestures. A rival wife receives a new piece of jewelry from the pharaoh, and the entire harem takes note. A foreign princess is seen speaking privately with a court vizier, and rumors begin to fly. Your servants are your eyes and ears, but can you trust them? They can be bribed, threatened, or swayed by the promises of another wife. A handmaiden who dresses you in the morning could be slipping a pinch of something into your wine by nightfall. You learn to trust no one. You learn to see plots in every smile, threats in every compliment. The most dangerous weapon in the harem is not poison, but gossip. A rumor that you have offended a god, a whisper that your son is sickly, a lie that you have been unfaithful. These can spread through the palace like a plague, eroding your influence, poisoning the pharaoh's mind against you, and giving your rivals the opening they need. You must be constantly vigilant, projecting an aura of unshakable confidence and divine favor, even when you are trembling with fear. And then there are the children. The harem is filled with them sons and daughters from dozens of wives and concubines. They play together in the courtyards, but they are not friends. They are rivals. The son of a lesser wife is still a potential threat to your own son's claim to the throne. You watch them all looking for signs of ambition in a young boy's eyes or jealousy in a young girl's stare. You teach your children to be wary, to be strong, to understand that the palace is not a home, but a battleground. You spend your days managing this complex web of relationships, rewarding loyalty, punishing dissent, and navigating the treacherous currents of female ambition. You host parties, you exchange gifts, you offer polite smiles to women you know would celebrate your death. It is exhausting. It is a performance that never ends. You may sleep in the pharaoh's bed, you may be the mother of the heir, but in the quiet, perfumed halls of the harem, you are never safe. You are a queen, surrounded by a court of would-be queens, each one waiting for you to make a single mistake, because in this nest of vipers, only the most cunning, the most ruthless, and the most patient will survive. The food taster has cleared your meal. The wine has been declared safe. You eat, you drink, and you pretend to be at ease. But the fear never truly leaves you. It is a cold stone in the pit of your stomach, a constant companion in the gilded halls of the palace. The fear of poison. It is the weapon of the coward, the tool of the schemer, the final resort of the desperate. It is silent, invisible, and brutally effective. A few drops of a carefully prepared concoction in your wine, a pinch of a ground powder in your bread, and your reign, your life could be over before the sun sets. And the list of people who might wish you gone is terrifyingly long. There is the rival wife whose son stands to inherit the throne if your own son were to meet with an unfortunate accident. She smiles at you during temple ceremonies, her eyes full of false piety. But you have seen the way she watches your child. There is the ambitious court vizier, a man whose power has grown too great, a man you have openly opposed in council. He bows to you his words like honey, but his ambition is a coiled snake waiting to strike. There are the foreign envoys, men who see you as an obstacle to their own kingdom's interests. A dead queen could change the course of a treaty. Even your own family is not beyond suspicion. A jealous brother? A resentful cousin? Royal blood is thick, but power is a solvent that can dissolve even the strongest bonds. You have read the histories. You know the stories of pharaohs who died suddenly after a feast of queens, who withered away with a mysterious illness that no healer could name. So you take precautions. Your food is prepared in a separate kitchen, guarded day and night. The cooks are men and women whose families have served your own for generations, their loyalty tested and proven. But even loyalty has a price. The food taster is your first line of defense, a human shield against the unknown. You watch him eat, and a part of you feels a flicker of guilt. His life is a daily gamble, wagered for the sake of yours. Your personal physicians are constantly at your side, not just to treat you, but to watch for signs of slow-acting poisons. They examine your skin, your eyes, your waist, looking for any deviation from the norm. Your handmaidens are chosen with extreme care. They are the ones who prepare your bath, who scent your oils, who touch your skin. A single disloyal hand could be deadly. You become a student of human nature, an expert in reading the subtle language of deceit. You notice the way a servant's eyes dart away when you ask a direct question. You hear the tremor in a nobleman's voice when he speaks of loyalty a little too loudly. You learn that in the palace, paranoia is not a sickness, it is a survival skill. At night, you lie awake, listening to the sounds of the palace. Every creak of a floorboard, every distant cough sounds like a threat. You sip water from a sealed flask that you yourself filled. You eat nothing that has not been tasted. Your life, for all its splendor, is a prison of caution. The irony is bitter. You are a goddess on earth, surrounded by wealth and power, but you cannot trust the food you eat or the air you breathe. The greatest luxury you can imagine is a simple meal eaten without fear. A luxury you will never have again. There are times when the pharaoh is not a man, but a child, or times when he is a man in body, but weak in mind or spirit. In these moments, the true power of Egypt does not rest with him. It rests with you. You are the regent, the great royal wife, the queen mother. You do not wear the double crown yourself, but your hands are the ones that guide the man who does. And this is the most dangerous game of all. You step into the role, not with a coronation, but with quiet, calculated efficiency. You begin by attending the meetings of the High Council, seated not on the throne but beside it. At first you are silent. You listen. The generals, the viziers, the high priests, they are old men accustomed to power, and they see you as a temporary inconvenience, a woman to be managed until the boy king comes of age. They underestimate you. That is their first mistake. You begin to speak, not with loud commands, but with soft, pointed questions. Wise vizier, you might say, your plan to raise taxes in the western oases is sound, but have you considered the loyalty of the tribes there? Perhaps a gift would be more effective than a threat. The vizier, caught off guard, stammers a reply. The other men in the room exchange uneasy glances. You have shown them you are not just a pretty face. You have a mind for strategy. You use your religious authority as a weapon. As the divine consort, you are the chief intermediary with the goddesses. You announce that Isis has come to you in a dream, warning against a particular military campaign, or that Hathor has blessed a new trade agreement. Who can argue with the will of a goddess? The priests, even those who resent your influence, are forced to fall in line. You build a network of loyalists. You promote young, ambitious officials who owe their careers to you. You reward generals who speak your name with reverence in the barracks. You cultivate friendships with the wives and daughters of powerful nobles, turning the social circles of the harem into a web of political intelligence. You rule not by decree, but by influence. But you must always maintain the illusion. The power is not yours. It belongs to the pharaoh, your son, your husband. Every order you give is issued in his name. Every success is credited to his divine wisdom. You are merely his humble servant, his devoted wife, his loving mother. It is a masterful performance, a delicate dance on the razor's edge of tradition. Your enemies are everywhere. They call you ambitious, manipulative, a woman who has forgotten her place. They whisper that you are the true ruler, a charge that, if proven, could be considered treason. You know they are watching, waiting for you to overstep, to make a single mistake that will give them the excuse they need to remove you. So you work from the shadows. You host lavish festivals to keep the people happy. You fund the construction of new temples to keep the priesthood loyal. You command armies through letters sealed with the pharaoh's name. You are the architect of the empire, but you must pretend to be merely a guest in the house you have built. It is a lonely, exhausting existence. You have all the responsibility of a king, but none of the credit. You are the most powerful person in Egypt, and you must act as if you are the most humble. Because you know the truth that history has proven time and again a woman can rule, but only if the world believes a man is still in charge. Her name was Hatshepsut. She was not just a regent, she was a pharaoh. For over 2 decades in the 15th century BCE, she ruled Egypt not as a queen, but as a king. She wore the false beard, the double crown, and the title of His Majesty. Her reign was one of peace, prosperity, and architectural marvels, including her magnificent mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahri. She was one of the most successful pharaohs of the New Kingdom. And then she was erased. Years after her death, a systematic campaign was launched to remove her from history. Her name was chiseled from temple walls. Her statues were smashed to pieces and buried in pits. Her image was scraped from reliefs, replaced with the names of her male predecessors, or her successor, Thutmose III. It was a thorough, ruthless, and intentional act of historical vandalism. You walk through the ruins of her temples, and you see the ghosts of her presence. A cartouche, the oval that encircles a royal name left blank, a relief where the proud figure of a king has been painstakingly scraped away, leaving a hollow silhouette. Why would they try to erase a ruler whose reign was so prosperous? The answer is as simple as it is chilling. She was a woman. A woman ruling as king shattered the very foundation of cosmic order of Ma'at. The pharaoh was supposed to be the incarnation of the male god Horus. A female king was a contradiction, an anomaly that later generations could not tolerate. It wasn't about her performance as a ruler. It was about her gender. By removing her from the records, they were not just rewriting history. They were trying to correct it, to restore a balance they believed she had broken. You as a queen are keenly aware of this danger. You know that your power, no matter how great, is temporary. Your legacy is fragile, dependent on the men who will follow you. Will they honor your memory, or will they see you as a threat to their own legitimacy? Will they preserve your temples, or will they tear them down? You see the story of Hatshepsut not as ancient history, but as a potential future. It is a warning whispered on the wind from the Valley of the Queens. You can build monuments of stone, you can commission statues of granite, you can rule with wisdom and strength. But a man with a chisel can undo it all. He can turn your face to dust, your name to silence. This is the ultimate misery of being a queen. You live your life knowing that your story is not your own to write. It will be written by your sons, your grandsons, your rivals, and they may choose to write you out of the story altogether. You stand before a wall where a queen's image used to be. You run your fingers over the rough, hollowed-out stone. You feel the cold void where her face once was, and you understand, the most powerful woman in the world can still be made to disappear. All it takes is time and the will of men to forget. And you wonder, will they come for your name next? Her name meant, the beautiful one has come. And she was. Her face, immortalized in the famous painted bust, has become the global icon of Egyptian beauty and regal grace. She was Nefertiti, the great royal wife of the pharaoh Akhenaten, the heretic king. Together, they launched a revolution that shook Egypt to its core. They abandoned the old gods, closed the temples of Amun-Ra, and worshipped only one deity, the Aten, the life-giving disk of the sun. And Nefertiti was not a passive participant in this revolution. She was its co-architect, its high priestess. In the art of the Amarna period, she is depicted with a prominence no queen had ever been given before. She is shown making offerings to the Aten alongside her husband. She is shown driving her own chariot. She is even shown in the classic pharaonic pose of smiting Egypt's enemies, a role previously reserved exclusively for male kings. She was a mother to 6 daughters, and the royal family was portrayed with a startling, unprecedented intimacy, kissing, mourning, playing. For a time, she was everywhere, her name and image etched into the new capital city of Akhetaten. She was more than a queen. She was a living goddess, the feminine counterpart to her divine husband. And then, around the 12th year of Akhenaten's reign, she vanishes. Just like that, gone. Her name disappears from the inscriptions. Her image is no longer carved on temple walls. It is one of the most profound and unsettling mysteries in all of Egyptian history. What happened to the beautiful one? Did she die? This is the simplest explanation. Perhaps she fell victim to a sudden plague that swept through the city or died in childbirth. But if so, why is there no record of her death? No grand funeral? No tomb has ever been definitively identified as hers. For a queen of her stature, the silence is deafening. Did she fall from favor? Some theories suggest she may have been disgraced and exiled perhaps for disagreeing with Akhenaten's increasingly radical religious views. Or perhaps she was eclipsed by a rival, but this seems unlikely given her immense power and prominence. The most tantalizing theory is that she did not vanish at all. She transformed. Some Egyptologists believe that Nefertiti took on a new name and a new role, becoming her husband's official co-regent and ruling alongside him as a pharaoh in her own right. There are traces of a mysterious ruler named Neferuaten, who reigned briefly during this time, and many believe this was Nefertiti. If true, it means she reached the absolute pinnacle of power, only to have her identity as a female king erased by later rulers who sought to restore tradition. You, as a queen in this world, hear these stories as whispers on the desert wind. The tale of Nefertiti is a ghost story told in the palace halls, a story of a woman who flew too close to the sun god and was burned not by his light, but by the shadows of men. Her absence is a chilling reminder of how precarious your own position is. If a queen, as powerful, as beautiful, and as beloved as Nefertiti, could be lost to time, what hope is there for you? Her famous bust sits in a museum today, her gaze serene, her expression enigmatic. She seems to be keeping a secret, the secret of what it means to have everything and then to have it all taken away, to become a beautiful haunting and eternal question mark. You stand on the balcony of the palace, looking out over the city of Thebes. Below the city bustles with life. Merchants call out their wares in the marketplace. Children chase dogs through the dusty streets. Priests lead a procession to the great temple of Karnak, their chants rising on the hot air. The empire is at peace. The granaries are full. The gods, it seems, are pleased. You are at the center of it all. You are the queen, the great royal wife, mother of the air. Your word can dispatch armies, commission temples, and decide the fate of nations. You are surrounded by hundreds of servants' guards and courtiers who exist for the sole purpose of fulfilling your every need. You are never physically alone. And yet, you have never felt so profoundly lonely. Who can you talk to? Really talk to? Not your handmaidens. They are your employees, your spies, your subordinates. They will tell you what they think you want to hear, their words a careful tapestry of flattery and deference. To show them your weakness, your fear, your doubt would be a fatal mistake. Not the vizier or the generals. They are men, and in their world, a woman's emotions are a liability. They respect your intelligence, perhaps even fear it, but they will never see you as an equal. To them, you are a political symbol, a divine vessel, a problem to be managed. To confide in them would be to hand them a weapon they could one day use against you. Not your husband, the Pharaoh. He is a god, and you are his high priestess. Your relationship is defined by ritual duty and public performance. There are moments of tenderness, yes, but they are fleeting. He carries the weight of the entire cosmos on his shoulders. He has no room for your private sorrows. His loneliness is as vast and unbridgeable as your own. And so, you learn to live inside your own mind. You walk through the crowded court, a serene smile on your face, your posture perfect, your voice a calm and measured melody. You are an island of perfect composure in a sea of ambition and intrigue. But inside, you are a fortress, walled off, guarded, and utterly solitary. You have no friends, only allies. You have no confidants, only servants. You have no equals, only subjects and rivals. The power you wield has built a wall around you, a wall of gold and lapis lazuli, but a wall nonetheless. It protects you from your enemies, but it also isolates you from the simple human connection that the poorest farmer in the fields takes for granted. Sometimes, at night, when the palace is quiet, and the only sound is the gentle lapping of the Nile against the shore, the loneliness becomes a physical ache. You look at your reflection in a polished bronze mirror, and you see the face of a queen adorned with jewels, her eyes lined with kohl. But you do not see yourself. You see the role you play, a role that has consumed you. You are the most powerful woman in the world, and you are completely, irrevocably alone. This is the ultimate misery, the one that no amount of gold can soothe, the one that no prayer can answer. The misery of being a goddess who is no longer allowed to be a person. You do not remember a time before learning. While other children in Egypt were learning to shape mud bricks or cast fishing nets, you were learning to read the language of the gods. Your childhood was not one of games and carefree laughter. It was a long, quiet apprenticeship in the cool, shadowed rooms of the palace library, surrounded by the dry, sweet scent of papyrus. Your tutors were old men scribes whose fingers were permanently stained with ink, their backs bent from a lifetime of leaning over scrolls. They taught you the sacred art of hieroglyphs, a pictorial language so complex, it was said that Thoth himself had gifted it to the world. Each symbol was a world unto itself. The owl was not just a bird. It was a sound, an idea, a piece of a divine puzzle. You spent hours, days, years, copying the symbols with a reed brush, your hand cramping your focus, unwavering. You were not just learning to write. You were learning to think like the gods, to see the world not as it was, but as it was written. This was not the education of a commoner. This was the education of a queen. But your curriculum did not end with language. You were taught mathematics, not for the love of numbers, but to manage the vast estates of the royal house, to calculate the grain yields, to oversee the treasury. You learned to measure the land, to understand the geometry of the pyramids, to see the divine order in a perfectly balanced ledger. You were taught history, the long, unbroken line of pharaohs stretching back to the dawn of time. You memorized the names of your ancestors, their victories, their monuments. You learned that you were not an individual, but a link in an eternal chain, and your duty was to not be the one that breaks. You studied theology, the intricate relationships between the gods, their domains, their tempers. You learned which hymns to sing to Ra as he rose in the morning, which offerings to make to Osiris in the land of the dead. This was not faith, it was statecraft. To understand the gods was to understand the source of all power. And yet, for all its depth, your education had walls. You were taught what a queen needed to know, and nothing more. The arts of war, the strategies of the battlefield, those were for your brothers. The deepest mysteries of the priesthood, the secret rituals performed in the inner sanctum of the temples, those were for the high priests. You were given immense knowledge, but it was a curated knowledge designed to make you a more effective tool for the state, a more valuable consort for the pharaoh. Your intellect became another part of your gilded cage. It set you apart from the other women in the court. who spent their days concerned with gossip jewelry and the latest fashions in wigs. You could not speak to them of the political treatises you read, of the astronomical calculations that fascinated you, of the philosophical questions that kept you awake at night. They would not understand. And if they did, they might see your intelligence as a threat. So you learned to keep your thoughts to yourself. You became a quiet observer, your mind a hidden library that no one else was permitted to enter. You were perhaps the most educated woman in the kingdom, but your knowledge brought you no freedom. It only made you more acutely aware of the bars of your cage. You were smart enough to see the prison walls, but not powerful enough to tear them down. Your education was your greatest asset, and also your most profound source of loneliness. It gave you the world, but it left you to explore it all alone. Your day does not belong to you. It belongs to the gods. From the moment the sun's first rays touch the horizon, your life is a series of rituals, a performance of piety that cannot falter. Your role as queen is secondary to your role as high priestess. You are the earthly counterpart to Isis, the great mother, the wife of the god king. It is through you that the divine feminine energy flows into the world, ensuring harmony, fertility, and order. This is not a privilege. It is a terrifying, crushing burden. Your morning begins not with a quiet meal, but with a purification ritual. Priestesses clad in white linen enter your chambers, their movements silent and precise. They wash your hands and feet with water from a sacred basin, murmuring ancient chants to cleanse you of any worldly impurity. They anoint your skin with consecrated oils, their scent myrrh, frankincense, lotus so thick it feels like a second skin. They dress you in ceremonial robes, layers of pleated white linen that are heavy and restrictive. On your head they place an elaborate headdress, perhaps the vulture crown of a goddess, its golden wings framing your face. You look in the mirror and see not yourself, but a divine icon, a living statue. Then begins the procession to the temple. You walk on paths strewn with petals, flanked by guards and priests. The common people line the route, their faces a sea of awe and reverence. They fall to their knees as you pass. They do not see you, the woman. They see the goddess you represent. They see their hope for a good harvest, for a healthy child, for protection from the chaos that always lurks at the edges of their world. You cannot smile. You cannot show fatigue. Your face must be a mask of serene, divine composure. The weight of their hopes is heavier than any golden collar. Inside the temple, the air is cool and dark. The smell of centuries of burnt incense hangs in the air, a thick, sweet perfume of devotion. The towering columns carved with the stories of the gods make you feel impossibly small. You are led to the inner sanctum, a place where only the pharaoh and the highest priests are allowed to enter. Here, before the granite statue of the god, your true work begins. Every gesture is a prayer. Every movement is a word in a silent language. You raise the offering of bread. You pour the libation of wine. Your voice, when you begin the hymn, must be flawless. It must be a pure, melodic tone, carrying the ancient words that have been sung in this very room for 1,000 years. You cannot make a mistake. A mispronounced word, a dropped offering, a moment of hesitation, any of these could be interpreted as a bad omen, a sign that you have failed to please the gods. And the displeasure of the gods is a terrifying thing. It can bring plague, famine, and defeat in battle. You perform the ritual, your body moving with a grace born of endless practice, but inside your mind is screaming. You are so focused on perfection that you feel nothing else. Not the cold of the stone floor, not the ache in your back from the heavy robes, not the fear that is a constant low thrum beneath your skin. When the ritual is over, you are led back to the palace. The mask of the goddess is removed, the heavy robes are taken away, and you are left in your chambers, drained and hollow. It is not a physical exhaustion, it is a spiritual one. You have stood at the threshold between the mortal and the divine, and you have carried the spiritual well-being of an entire civilization on your shoulders. You lie down on your bed, but you do not rest. You simply wait for the sun to rise, so you can do it all again. There is a sound you have been trained to listen for your entire life. It is not the sound of war drums or the cheers of a crowd. It is the sound of the pharaoh's breathing. And one night, it stops. The silence that follows is the most terrifying sound you have ever heard. In that instant, your world shatters. The palace erupts into a carefully orchestrated performance of grief. Hired mourners begin to wail their cries, echoing through the stone halls. Priests begin the long, complex rituals to guide the pharaoh's soul into the afterlife. But for you, the great royal wife, this is not a time for mourning. It is a time for survival. Your protector is gone. The god you were married to has left his earthly vessel. And in the power vacuum he leaves behind, you are suddenly terrifyingly vulnerable. The men of the court, the vizier, the generals, the high priests who bowed to you yesterday are looking at you differently today. Their eyes are cold calculating. They no longer see a queen. They see an obstacle or an opportunity. Your fate now depends entirely on one thing: who is the heir? If the new pharaoh is your own son, you may ascend to a position of even greater power. You will become the queen mother, the regent for the young king, the power behind the throne. But this is a role fraught with peril. You will have to fight to protect your son from the ambitions of other men, men who believe a woman has no place ruling Egypt, even in her son's name. Every decision you make will be scrutinized. Every alliance you forge will be tested. But if the heir is not your son, if he is the child of a rival wife or a distant cousin with a stronger claim, then your life is in immediate danger. You are now the widow of the old king, a symbol of a past regime. You are a loose end. The new regime may see you as a threat, a potential rallying point for those who are disloyal. The palace, once your home, becomes your prison. You are confined to your quarters, guarded by soldiers who are no longer loyal to you. Your servants are replaced. Your letters are read. Your every move is watched. You spend your days in a state of suspended animation, waiting for your fate to be decided by the men who now control the world. There are two paths before you: the path of honor and the path of silence. The new pharaoh might grant you a respectable retirement. You could be sent to live out your days in a secluded temple or a country estate, honored as the widow of a god but stripped of all political influence. A life of quiet, comfortable obscurity. Or there is the other path, the one that is not recorded in the official histories but is whispered in the corridors of the harem, the path of poison. The quiet, convenient removal of a woman who knows too much, who has seen too much. An unfortunate illness, a tragic accident. No one will question it. History will simply forget you. As you sit in your silent chambers, listening to the new court forming outside your door, you understand the brutal calculus of power. You were a queen, you were a goddess, and now you are nothing. Your survival depends not on your own strength, but on the mercy of the man who has taken your husband's throne. And mercy is a rare commodity in the land of the pharaohs. You are Ankhesenamun. You are the daughter of the sun, born to Nefertiti and the heretic king Akhenaten. You were raised in the new city of Amarna, a place of radical art and singular devotion to the god Aten. But that world is gone now, shattered, its memory being scraped from the stones. Your husband, the boy king Tutankhamun, the living image of the restored god Amun, is dead. He was young, frail, and his death was sudden. The palace whispers of an accident, a sickness, a plot. You do not know the truth. You only know that you are alone. You are barely a woman, perhaps no older than 20. You are the queen of Egypt, the last pure-blooded royal of your divine line. But you have no son. And a queen with no heir is a pawn in a game she is destined to lose. The man who watches you, now the man who controls the court, is A. He is old Cunning, a vizier, who served your father. He was once a servant of your house. Now he looks at you with the eyes of a master. You know his plan. He will force you to marry him. Your royal blood will legitimize his claim to the throne. He will become pharaoh, and you will become his wife, his prisoner. Once he has secured his power, you will be disposable. A tragic, convenient death will surely follow. Your name will be a footnote in the story of his rise. Fear is a cold snake coiling around your heart. You cannot let this happen. You will not be the wife of a servant. You are the daughter of kings. And so, in the dead of night, in the secrecy of your chambers, you do the unthinkable. You defy every tradition, every law, every loyalty. You write a letter. You call for a scribe you trust, one whose silence can be bought. You dictate the words, your voice trembling but firm. The letter is not addressed to an Egyptian general or a high priest. It is addressed to Suppiluliuma, the great king of the Hittites, Egypt's oldest and most bitter enemy. The words are a plea, a desperate gamble that could either save you or start a war that will consume the world. My husband has died, you write, and I have no son. But they say, you have many sons. Give me one of your sons, and he shall become my husband. I will not take a servant of mine and make him my husband. I am afraid. It is an act of breathtaking bravery and of sheer terror. You are offering the throne of Egypt to a foreigner, an enemy, just to escape the clutches of the men in your own court. You seal the letter and send it with a secret messenger on the long, dangerous journey north. Then you wait. Weeks turn into a month. The silence from the Hittite court is agonizing. In the palace, Ai's pressure mounts. He speaks to you of duty, of the stability of the two lands. His words are respectful, but his eyes are hard. He is closing the net. Then a reply comes. The Hittite king is shocked suspicious. He sends an envoy to confirm your story. Never in our history has such a thing happened, he writes. Time is running out. You send another message, more urgent this time, pleading with him to trust you. Finally he agrees. He will send one of his sons, the Prince Zananza, to be your husband and the new pharaoh of Egypt. A flicker of hope ignites within you. You have done it. You have outmaneuvered them. You wait for the prince's arrival, your heart a mix of triumph and terror. You have bet everything on this foreign prince. But he never arrives. Word comes back from the border. The prince's caravan was ambushed. He was murdered on the road to Egypt. By whom, no one knows for sure. But you know. It was I. He discovered your plot, and he has stolen your last hope. The game is over. You have lost. I forces you to marry him. He becomes pharaoh. And just as you feared, shortly after the wedding, your name, Ankhesenamun, Queen of Egypt, daughter of the sun, vanishes from the historical record forever. You become a ghost swallowed by the sands of time, your desperate plea, a silent scream that will not be heard again for 3,000 years. The envoys have arrived. They are from Mitanni, or Babylon, or perhaps the land of the seafaring Minoans. They are men. Of course, they are always men. They stride into the audience hall of the palace, their faces bearded, their clothes made of heavy foreign wool. They carry gifts, lapis lazuli, carved ivory, strange and beautiful pottery. They bow before your husband, the pharaoh, but their eyes flicker towards you. They are assessing you, judging you. You are the great royal wife, a goddess on earth, but in the world of international diplomacy, you are a curious and often underestimated creature. You do not speak first. You sit on your throne beside the pharaoh, a picture of silent, serene beauty. Your hands rest gracefully in your lap. Your expression is a carefully crafted mask of polite indifference. You are an ornament, a beautiful symbol of the pharaoh's power. That is what they are meant to see. But behind the mask, your mind is racing. You are listening to every word, every shift in tone, every subtle pause in the translator's speech. You are the pharaoh's closest advisor, his most trusted confidant. He may be the god, but you are the one who understands the treacherous hearts of men. The envoys speak of trade, of treaties of peace. Their words are wrapped in layers of flattery. They call the pharaoh, my son, my lord. They speak of the eternal friendship between your two lands. You know it is a lie. They want something. They want Egyptian gold, or access to the copper mines in the Sinai. Or perhaps they are probing for weakness, testing the strength of the new pharaoh. After the public audience, the pharaoh dismisses the court. But you remain. The doors are closed. The guards stand outside. Alone with your husband, the performance ends. "What do you see, my love?" he asks, his voice weary. And you tell him. You tell him that the chief envoy's eyes never met his, that he glanced at the general of the army 3 times while speaking of peace. You tell him that the gifts they brought, while beautiful, were of a lesser quality than those they brought last year, a sign of disrespect, or a sign that their own kingdom is in trouble. You remind him of the treaty his grandfather signed with their people, a treaty they have violated twice in the last decade. You do not raise your voice. You do not command. You advise. You use your intellect as your weapon, your knowledge of history as your shield. You have spent years studying the political landscape, reading the letters that come from every corner of the known world. You know the names of the foreign kings, their wives, their sons, their rivalries. You are a spy master in a queen's body. The pharaoh listens. He values your counsel, your sharp, incisive mind. But he cannot acknowledge it in public. To do so would be to admit that he relies on a woman's wisdom. And in this world, that is a kind of weakness. So you remain in the shadows, the unseen architect of foreign policy. The treaties are signed in his name. The victories are credited to his strength. But the words, the strategy, the foresight, they are often yours. You navigate the treacherous waters of diplomacy with a skill that few men possess. You use charm where they would use force, patience where they would show aggression. It is a lonely and thankless task. You will receive no credit for the peace you help maintain, no praise for the wars you help avert. History will remember the pharaoh as a great diplomat, but you will be remembered, if at all, as his beautiful, silent wife. And that is the misery of your power. It is immense, but it must never be seen. The sun has not yet risen, but your day has already begun. You sit on a low stool as your handmaidens begin the long, laborious process of transforming you from a woman into a symbol. The first thing they bring is the wig. It is not a light, fashionable accessory. It is a heavy, intricate construction of human hair and vegetable fibers woven into hundreds of tight braids, often adorned with gold tubes and faience beads. It is placed upon your shaved head, and you feel the immediate familiar weight pressing down, a constant physical reminder of the crown you represent. The heat it traps against your scalp is immense, a small personal furnace you must carry with you throughout the day. Next comes the makeup. The coal is ground from galena, a dark, lead-based mineral. A servant with a steady hand uses a small wooden stick to apply it, drawing a thick, almond-shaped line around your eyes. It is dramatic, beautiful, and also slowly poisoning you. The eyeshadow is powdered malachite, a vibrant green or azurite for a deep blue. It is a painter's palette applied to your face, meant to evoke the divine eyes of Horus. It is not about enhancing your beauty. It is about erasing your humanity, replacing it with the impassive, eternal gaze of a goddess. Then they dress you. You do not wear simple clothes. You wear layers. A sheath of the finest, most transparent white linen is your base, but over it they drape elaborate bead nets. Thousands of tiny colored beads strung together in intricate patterns. They shimmer and click as you move. They are beautiful. They are also incredibly heavy. But the true weight is the jewelry. Around your neck they fasten the usek, the broad collar. It is a semicircle of solid gold, inlaid with lapis lazuli, carnelian, and turquoise. It is not a necklace. It is a yoke. It rests on your collarbones, its weight a constant pressure, forcing you to keep your head high, your posture regal. You cannot slouch. You cannot look down. The collar will not allow it. On your arms they slide heavy gold bracelets. On your ankles more bands of gold. In your ears, heavy pendants that pull at your lobes. By the time they are finished, you are a walking treasury. You glitter and gleam with the wealth of an empire. But you can barely move. Each step is deliberate, measured. You cannot run. You cannot dance freely. You cannot even sit comfortably. The gold that is meant to signify your power is in reality a cage. It restricts your movement, isolates your body, and separates you from the world. You walk through the palace, the clicks of your jewelry announcing your arrival. People bow their eyes, averted from your divine radiance. They do not see the strain in your shoulders from the weight of your collar. They do not see the sweat beading on your brow beneath the heavy wig. They do not see the woman trapped inside the golden statue. At the end of the day, when the jewels are removed, the wig is lifted, and the makeup is wiped away, your body sighs in relief. Your skin is raw from the weight and friction. Your neck aches. You are yourself again for a few precious hours. But you know that with the rising of the sun, the ritual will begin again. You will once more be dressed in the splendid, suffocating weight of your divinity. The gold is your glory and also your prison. You have done your duty. You have given the pharaoh a son, a strong, healthy boy, the heir to the double crown. For a short, blissful time, you feel a sense of security. You are the queen mother, the mutney suit. Your position is unassailable. The court reveres you. The harem is quiet, its petty rivalries muted by your success. But you are wise enough to know that in the world of the palace, peace is never permanent. It is merely the pause between storms. The pharaoh is a god, and a god's appetites are boundless. He continues to take other wives. Some are political arrangements, princesses from foreign lands, sent to seal a treaty. Others are the daughters of powerful Egyptian nobles, their marriages a way to secure loyalty. They are all young, they are all beautiful, and they are all potential rivals. The next storm arrives with a caravan from the north. A Syrian princess, her skin the color of pale honey, her eyes like dark jewels. She is a gift from her father, a king whose allegiance the pharaoh needs. She is brought to the harem, and the delicate balance of power begins to shift. She is exotic different. The pharaoh is intrigued by her strange accent, her foreign customs. He spends more and more time in her chambers. The whispers in the harem start again quiet at first, then growing louder. And then, the news you have been dreading arrives. The Syrian princess is with child. The 9 months that follow are an eternity of quiet, gnawing anxiety. You pray to the gods that it is a girl. You make offerings to Sekhmet, the goddess of destruction, hoping she might bring a convenient misfortune upon your rival. You watch the princess as her belly grows, your smile a perfect mask of serene indifference, but your heart a cold knot of fear. The day comes. She gives birth to a son, another boy. Suddenly the throne has 2 potential heirs, and the court, which was once united behind you, fractures into factions. There are those who support your son, the true Egyptian heir, born of the great royal wife. And there are those who see opportunity in the new arrival. The nobles with ties to the north, the envoys from the princess's homeland, the courtiers who resent your own power, they begin to rally around the new mother and her child. The harem becomes a cold war. Every word is a potential weapon. Every gift is a suspected bribe. You watch your rival with the eyes of a hawk. You notice the way she smiles at the vizier, the way she whispers with the foreign ambassadors. She is not just a mother, she is a political player, and she is playing for the ultimate prize. The most agonizing part is the effect it has on your children. You must now teach your son, the heir, to be wary. You must teach him that his own half-brother, the boy he plays with in the palace gardens, is not his family. He is a threat, a rival, who could one day take his throne and his life. You watch the innocence fade from your son's eyes, replaced by a guarded suspicion that is far too old for his young face. This is the deepest misery of all. The palace does not just demand your own soul. It demands the souls of your children. You are locked in a silent, deadly chess game, and the pieces are the people you love most in the world. Your beauty is a legend. Poets write hymns about it. Scribes compare your face to the perfection of the lotus blossom, your skin to the smoothness of alabaster. When you appear in public ceremonies, a hush falls over the crowd. Your beauty is not just a personal attribute. It is a national asset, a symbol of the health and vitality of the Egyptian kingdom itself. It is a powerful tool, and you have learned to wield it with precision. In the royal court, Your beauty commands attention. It gives your words an added weight. When you speak, the nobles and generals listen captivated, not just by your intellect, but by the divine grace they see in your form. When foreign envoys arrive, your presence dazzles them. Your elegance and poise are a form of diplomacy, a soft power that can smooth over tense negotiations and win allies without a single drop of blood being shed. The pharaoh himself basks in your radiance. Your beauty enhances his own prestige. He is the sun god, and you are the moon, his perfect, luminous reflection. But you know the truth. This beauty is not a gift. It is a curse. It is a target. In the simmering jealousy of the harem, your face is a constant source of resentment. The lesser wives, the older consorts, the women. The pharaoh no longer favors. They look at you with eyes full of a quiet, bitter poison. They scrutinize you for any sign of imperfection, any evidence that time is beginning to touch you. A new line around your eyes, a single gray hair found by a handmaiden. These are not seen as natural changes. They are seen as victories for your rivals, and they are whispered about with malicious glee in the secluded courtyards. Your life becomes a relentless ritual of preservation. Every day you are bathed in milk and honey. Your skin is massaged with exotic oils from Punt and Mesopotamia. Your makeup is applied not just to create an image, but to conceal any flaw. It is an exhausting, endless performance of perfection. You are not allowed to age. You are not allowed to be tired. You are a living work of art, and you must remain flawless. And there is a darker danger. The pharaoh's desire for you is the foundation of your power. But that desire is a possessive, dangerous force. If another man, a handsome general, a visiting prince, a charismatic priest, looks at you with too much admiration, it can be fatal. For him and for you. The pharaoh's jealousy is legendary. A single, misplaced glance can be interpreted as a betrayal. You learn to move through the world like a divine statue, beautiful but untouchable, admired but impossibly distant. You must be a vision of desire, but you must never inspire it in anyone but the king. The greatest fear, the one that haunts you in the dead of night, is the fear of time. What will happen when your beauty inevitably begins to fade? When a younger, fresher face catches the pharaoh's eye. You know that your currency is fleeting. Your power is tied to something as fragile as the reflection in a bronze mirror. The misery is not in being beautiful. It is in knowing that your worth in the eyes of the world and the man who rules it is only skin deep. And one day that skin will betray you, and you will be left with nothing. The fever came in this night, sudden and fierce. It took your youngest daughter, a bright, laughing child of 5. One day, she was chasing gazelles in the palace gardens. The next, she was burning with a fire that no priest or physician could extinguish. You sat by her side for 3 days and 3 nights, holding her small hand, bathing her brow with cool water, and whispering desperate prayers to Isis. But the gods were silent, and on the 3rd night she was gone. Your heart shatters. The pain is a physical thing, a jagged stone in your chest that makes it hard to breathe. You want to scream, to tear at your robes, to collapse on the floor, and let the great black wave of sorrow pull you under. You want to mourn, but you are not allowed to. You are a queen, and a queen does not have the luxury of grief. The next morning, as your daughter's small body is being prepared for its journey to the afterlife, you must rise. You must be dressed. You must be painted. You must appear in court, your face a perfect, serene mask. There is a festival for the goddess Hathor, and you must preside over it. The kingdom cannot see its queen broken. Your sorrow is a private thing, an indulgence that could be seen as a weakness, a crack in the divine order. You walk through the halls, your movements graceful, your back straight. You smile at the nobles. You accept their condolences, which are formal and brief. They speak of the will of the gods of your daughter joining Osiris in the field of reeds. Their words are empty. They cannot touch the howling void inside you. You stand in the temple, the sound of sistrums and chants filling the air. You make the offerings, your hands steady, your voice clear as you recite the ancient hymns. No one can see the tears you are swallowing. No one can feel the scream that is trapped in your throat. You are performing. You are playing the part of the strong, unshakable queen, the divine mother who accepts the will of the gods with grace. But inside, you are breaking. Every laugh from the crowd is a dagger. Every joyful song is a mockery of your pain. You watch other mothers with their children, and the envy is so sharp it takes your breath away. They are allowed to hold their children to weep, for them to grieve for them. You are not. Your child is gone, and you must pretend that the cosmos is still in balance. The only place you can mourn is in the deepest privacy of your chambers, in the dead of night, when the palace is asleep. There alone in the darkness, you let the tears fall. You clutch a small toy she left behind, a wooden cat with painted whiskers, and you allow your body to shake with silent, racking sobs. It is a stolen, sacred grief, one that must be hidden from the world. By dawn, the mask must be back in place. Your eyes must be clear, your voice steady. This is the cruelest part of your power. It demands that you deny your own heart. You must be a goddess. And goddesses do not feel pain as mortals do. They endure. And so, you endure. You carry your shattered heart like a secret, a heavy, silent stone that you will bear alone for the rest of your life. You were not born in the golden age of pyramids and divine pharaohs. You were born into the twilight of a dying kingdom. You are Cleopatra VII, a queen who inherited a throne that was already a ghost, its power a faint echo of what it once was. Your Egypt is not the master of the world. It is a client state, a pawn in the brutal, expanding game of a new empire Rome. You know from the moment you take the throne that you are not truly sovereign. The Roman Senate whispers, and the Mediterranean world trembles. Roman legions are stationed near your borders. Roman politicians demand tribute. Your kingdom is a ripe fig, and Rome is waiting for the perfect moment to pluck it. You could surrender. You could become a puppet queen, ruling in name, only your every move dictated by a Roman governor. Many before you have chosen this path. It is safe. It is easy. But you are not made for safety. You are the daughter of the Ptolemies, descended from the generals of Alexander the Great. You have the blood of conquerors in your veins and the mind of a strategist behind your coal-lined eyes. You will not kneel. You will play their game, and you will play it better than they do. You are not just beautiful. That is a tool, and a crude one at that. Your true weapon is your intellect. You speak 9 languages. You have studied mathematics, philosophy, and rhetoric. You understand the complex, shifting alliances of the Roman political landscape better than many of the senators themselves. You know that Rome is not a monolith. It is a hornet's nest of ambitious, greedy men, and you know how to turn them against each other. Your first gamble is a man named Julius Caesar. He is the most powerful man in Rome, and he has come to Egypt to settle a dispute. You see your chance. You have yourself smuggled to him, famously wrapped in a carpet, an act of theatrical, unforgettable audacity. You do not come to him as a supplicant. You come to him as an equal. You use your charm, your wit, and your kingdom's immense wealth to forge an alliance. It is a dangerous partnership, one built on mutual ambition. You bear him a son, Caesarion, a child you hope will one day unite the 2 great empires of Egypt and Rome. But Caesar is assassinated. Rome erupts into civil war. And you must pivot. Your next gamble is Mark Antony. He is a brilliant general, a man of passion and appetites, and Caesar's chosen successor. You meet him on a golden barge on the river Cydnus, dressed as the goddess Isis. It is another masterful performance. He is captivated. Your alliance with Antony is one of genuine love, but also of cold political calculation. Together, you dream of a new Eastern Empire, with Alexandria as its capital, a rival to the power of Rome. You fund his armies with Egyptian gold. You fight alongside him. For a time, it seems you might succeed. But there is another man in Rome, a boy, cold, patient, and utterly ruthless. Caesar's adopted son, Octavian. The final war comes. At the Battle of Actium, your combined fleet is defeated. The dream dies in the waters of the Ionian Sea. Antony takes his own life. You are captured. You know the fate that awaits you. Octavian will parade you through the streets of Rome in golden chains, a living trophy to display his absolute power, the final humiliated queen of a conquered kingdom. You will not allow it. You have played the game with the most powerful men in the world, and you have lost. But you will choose the manner of your own ending. In your final act of defiance, you press an asp, a sacred Egyptian cobra, to your skin. The venom is swift. It is your last silent victory. You would rather die a queen in Egypt than live as a slave in Rome. Your misery was not in your choices, but in the time you were born. You were a brilliant, blazing star in a sky that was already being consumed by the shadow of Rome. You were the last pharaoh, and the world you fought to save was already gone. You are a mother. This, you feel, is your most true and tender identity. When you hold your child, the queen dissolves, the goddess fades, and you are simply a woman flooded with a love so fierce it feels like a physical force. But this love is a secret you must keep, because in the cold calculus of the state, your children are not your own. They belong to Egypt. They are assets. They are pawns in the great and terrible game of empire. When you give birth to a daughter, you feel a surge of joy. She is perfect, beautiful, a small, warm presence in the cold formality of the palace. But the court sees something else. They see a future treaty. They see a bargaining chip. They see a princess who will one day be shipped to a foreign land to become the wife of a king you have never met, all to secure an alliance or prevent a war. Her education begins almost immediately. It is not an education for her own enlightenment, but for her future role as a political instrument. She is taught the languages of your enemies, Hittite, Mitannian, Babylonian. She learns their customs, their religions, their court etiquette. She is being groomed not to be a happy woman, but to be an effective diplomatic wife. The day you have been dreading for her entire life arrives. An envoy from a northern kingdom comes with gifts of cedarwood and silver and a proposal of marriage. Your daughter is 13. She is still a child, one who plays with dolls and laughs too loudly in the gardens. You are summoned to the pharaoh's chambers. The decision has been made. You must tell her. You sit with her in her room, the air thick with the scent of lotus oil. You take her small hands in yours, and you explain that it is her sacred duty to leave her home, her family, her gods, and travel to a strange, cold land to marry a man twice her age. You tell her this will ensure peace, that the lives of thousands of soldiers depend on her sacrifice. You speak of honor, of duty, of the glory of Egypt. You use all the words you have been taught to use. You do not use the word love. You do not use the word happiness. Those words have no place here. She does not cry. She has been raised as you were, to show no weakness. She simply nods her eyes wide and full of a fear she will not name. In that moment, your heart breaks. This is the true misery of your position. You must offer your own child as a living sacrifice on the altar of diplomacy. You watch her caravan depart, a long line of servants and guards, and chests of gold snaking its way toward the desert horizon. You may never see her again. She is no longer your daughter. She is the price of peace. And what of your sons? They are not sent away. They are kept close, but they are no safer. They are raised from birth to be rivals. The heir, the crown prince, is taught that his own brothers are his most dangerous enemies. He is taught to watch them, to suspect them, to be wary of their ambition. You see the poison of this rivalry seep into their childhood. The games they play are no longer innocent. They are practice for the battlefield. They learn the art of war, not as a discipline, but as a future necessity against their own blood. You love them all, but you must be careful. To show favor to one is to incite the jealousy of the others. Your love is not a comfort. It is a political liability. You are the mother of a dynasty that may one day consume itself in a war of succession. You watch your sons so full of life and promise, and you know that you are raising them not just to be kings, but to be potential murderers and victims. This is your life, a queen whose heart is a battlefield and whose children are the soldiers. You are not a woman. You are a goddess. This is the first and most important truth of your existence. It is chanted in the temples, it is carved on the monuments, it is reflected in the eyes of every person who prostrates themselves on the ground as you pass. They do not see a person of flesh and bone. They see a divine vessel, the living incarnation of Isis, the earthly consort of Horus. And this divinity is not a comfort. It is an unbearable, crushing burden. Your life is not your own. It is a ritual. Every action is prescribed. Every word is weighed. You cannot have a bad day. You cannot be tired or irritable or sad. Your moods are not your own. They are believed to influence the cosmos. If you show anger, the crops might fail. If you weep, the Nile might refuse to flood. You are a divine barometer, and you must at all times project an aura of serene, unshakable harmony. There is no room for human error. During the great festivals, you must stand for hours in the blazing sun, wearing robes that weigh more than a child, your face a perfect mask of divine grace. You recite ancient hymns from memory, every word, every intonation perfect. A single mistake, a forgotten line, a faltered step. It is not an embarrassment. It is a cosmic failure, a flaw in the divine order that could bring ruin to the kingdom. The pressure is so immense, it is a physical force pressing down on you like the stone roof of a tomb. You are worshipped, but you are not known. People pray to your image. They make offerings at your statues, but no one knows the woman behind the coal-lined eyes. You are surrounded by people, yet you are utterly alone, isolated by the very divinity they adore. No one can touch you casually. No one can speak to you as a friend. To do so would be blasphemy. They can only worship you from a distance. You are a god, but you are also a prisoner of your own faith. You live in constant fear of the greater gods, the ones in the heavens, who are watching your every move, judging your every action. You who are worshipped must spend your life in worship, performing endless rituals to appease deities who are far more powerful and far more capricious than you. It is a strange and terrifying paradox. You are a god who lives in fear of gods. Over the years, the mask you wear begins to merge with your face. The divine role you play begins to consume the person you once were. You forget what it feels like to laugh without thinking, to speak without measuring your words, to walk without the weight of an empire on your shoulders. The woman is lost, and only the goddess remains. This is the misery of your divinity. It gives you everything: power, wealth, reverence. And in return, it takes the one thing that is truly precious: yourself. You look at your reflection in the mirror, and you see the face of a queen, the eyes of a goddess. But you search for the girl you used to be, and you find nothing. She is gone, erased, a sacrifice to the gods you are forced to embody. Your home is the most magnificent structure in the known world. The palace at Thebes, or Memphis, or Amarna. Its halls are wide enough to march an army through. Its walls are painted with scenes of gods and glorious battles, the colors so vibrant they seem to hum with life. The gardens are a paradise of lotus pools, swaying palm trees, and fragrant flowers. You are surrounded by a beauty so profound it takes the breath away. And you are a prisoner here. The palace is not a home. It is a cage, albeit a gilded one. The walls are not for protection, they are for containment. You can go anywhere you wish, as long as it is within the palace grounds. But you have walked these same corridors 1,000 times. You have sat by the same lotus pool every afternoon for 20 years. You know the pattern of every mosaic on the floor, the face of every god painted on the walls. The beauty, once so dazzling, has become a monotonous, suffocating backdrop to your life. You long for the world outside, the real world, the world of noise and dirt and chaos. You stand on your balcony and look out over the city. You see the markets teeming with people. You can hear the distant sounds, the shouting of merchants, the laughter of children, the braying of a donkey. You can smell the scent of baking bread, of frying fish, of the dusty living city. It feels more real, more alive than anything within your perfumed silent walls. You are a queen, but you have never walked through a marketplace. You have never bartered for a piece of pottery or tasted a hot cake from a street vendor's stall. The world comes to you only in filtered, curated pieces. Your viziers bring you reports of the kingdom. Your servants tell you stories of their villages. But it is all second-hand. You are the ruler of a world you are not allowed to touch. Even your journeys are a form of imprisonment. When you travel on the Nile, it is not on a simple skiff. It is on a grand royal barge, draped in silks, surrounded by a flotilla of guard boats. The people on the shore fall to their knees as you pass. They see a spectacle, a divine procession. They do not see the woman sitting alone on a golden throne, staring out at a world she can see, but never join. The palace is designed for your safety and comfort, but in its perfection it isolates you. It robs you of the texture of life, the simple, ordinary experiences that make a person whole. You find yourself envying the handmaiden who gets to go home to her noisy, crowded family in the village. You envy the fisherman mending his nets on the riverbank, his skin dark from the sun, his hands rough from his work. They are poor, their lives are hard, but they are free. They are part of the world. You are merely its observer. Over time, the gilded walls begin to feel like the walls of a tomb. The beautiful gardens become a beautifully decorated prison yard. You are the most powerful woman in Egypt, but your world is only as large as the palace gates. And you know, with a deep and abiding sorrow, that you will never be allowed to step outside. In the art of Amarna, you are surrounded by life. You are Nefertiti, and your husband Akhenaten sits beside you. The rays of the sun, God the Aten, stream down their hands, touching you both in a divine blessing. And all around you are your children. 6 of them, all daughters. Their names are recorded, their faces are carved in stone. Meritaten Mekataten, Ankezenamun, Nefer Nefereraten, Tasharet Nefer Neferer, Setepenre. They are a constant presence, sitting on your lap, pulling at your robes, their small, elongated skulls echoing the strange, new artistic style of the era. The royal family is a portrait of intimate, sacred unity. But art is a lie, a beautiful, carefully constructed lie. The revolution fails. Akhenaten dies. The city of Amarna is abandoned. The old gods are restored. And in the chaotic aftermath, your daughters begin to disappear, not just from the art, but from history itself. Meketaten, the second-born, is the first to go. A relief in the royal tomb shows her lifeless body, your own figure, and Akhenaten's contorted in an unprecedented raw display of royal grief. She likely died young, perhaps from a plague that swept through the city. Her story ends there. A child mourned and buried. Ankhesenamun, the third daughter, survives for a time. She is married to the boy king Tutankhamun, her own half-brother, and becomes the queen of Egypt. But her story, as you know, ends in a desperate failed plea to a foreign king and a final silent erasure from the records. And the others, Meritaten the eldest, the 3 youngest daughters, what becomes of them? History is almost completely silent. Their names, once so prominent, simply stop appearing. There are no tombs, no inscriptions, no records of their marriages or deaths. They vanish as if they never existed. This is the hidden misery that haunts you as a queen and a mother. You raise your daughters to be princesses. They are educated, adorned, revered. They are part of the divine bloodline. But you know that their value is conditional. They are political assets to be married off to foreign kings or powerful nobles to secure alliances. Their lives are not their own. And worse, you know that history does not care about them. It is a story of kings, of sons, of heirs. Daughters are footnotes. They are the background figures in a grand, male-dominated narrative. Unless they do something extraordinary or tragic, like become a pharaoh, or write a desperate letter to an enemy king, their stories are simply not told. Did they die in the political purges that followed their father's reign? Were they quietly married off to minor officials and forced to live out their lives in obscurity? Were they exiled, imprisoned, forgotten? We will never know. Their vibrant young faces so full of life in the Amarna, reliefs dissolve into the mists of time. You look at your own daughters playing in the palace gardens. You teach them, you love them, you protect them, but you know that you cannot protect them from the cruel indifference of history. You know that the story of their lives, so precious and real to you, may one day be reduced to a single forgotten name on a broken piece of pottery. And the fear of their erasure is a pain deeper and more lasting than any political threat or personal betrayal. It is the fear that your own children will become ghosts. You know the story of Hatshepsut. Every queen knows her story. It is a cautionary tale whispered in the harem, a lesson in the brutal price of a woman's ambition. She was a ruler of breathtaking skill. For 22 years she reigned over Egypt during the New Kingdom, a period of immense prosperity and peace. She was not a regent hiding behind a male heir. She was the king. She adopted the full pharaonic regalia, the kilt, the crowns, and the false ceremonial beard. Her name was inscribed in the royal cartouche. She was Matkare, His Majesty. And she was magnificent. She did not wage bloody wars of conquest. Instead, she built. Her mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahri is one of the most beautiful and innovative structures in all of ancient Egypt, a series of terraced colonnades rising from the desert floor in perfect harmony with the cliffs behind it. She commissioned trading expeditions to the land of Punt, bringing back incense, myrrh, and exotic animals. Under her rule, Egypt thrived. She was by any measure one of the most successful pharaohs of the 18th dynasty. Her sin was not incompetence. Her sin was not cruelty. Her sin was her success and her gender. A woman ruling as king was a disruption of the natural order. It was a violation of Mayat, the divine principle of truth, balance, and cosmic harmony. The pharaoh was the living Horus, a male god. For a woman to take that role was to the traditionalists who came after her an intolerable blasphemy. For a time, her legacy was tolerated. But decades after her death, during the reign of her successor, Thutmose III, the backlash began. A systematic, meticulous campaign was launched to wipe her from the memory of Egypt. It was not a passionate act of rage. It was a cold, calculated political erasure. You imagine the sound, the quiet, rhythmic clink, clink, clink of a chisel on stone, echoing in the silent, sun-drenched halls of her temples. Workers on official orders painstakingly chipping away her name from every monument. Her face, carved in magnificent reliefs, was scraped into a blank, featureless void. Her statues, hundreds of them, were smashed and hurled into a quarry near her temple, buried like common rubble. The story of her reign was rewritten. Her accomplishments were attributed to her male predecessors. It was as if she had never been. This is the story that is told to you as a young princess. It is a warning. This is what happens when a woman takes too much power. This is the price of defiance. And so this knowledge shapes your own reign. When you hold power, you do it from the shadows. You advise, you manipulate, you guide, but you never claim the throne for yourself. You learn that a queen's strength must be veiled, her ambition hidden behind a mask of feminine piety and submission. You understand that your survival and the survival of your legacy depends on not making the same mistake Hatshepsut did. You must never let them see how powerful you truly are. The misery of this position is a fine, sharp blade against your throat. You know you are capable. You know you could rule as well as, if not better than, the men around you. But you are constrained by the ghost of a queen who dared too much. Her erasure is a lesson that has been burned into the soul of every royal woman who came after. And you live with the constant chilling fear that if you step too far out of the shadows, the chisels will come for your name too. In a normal marriage, your in-laws might be critical, demanding, or difficult. They might judge the way you keep your house or raise your children. But your in-laws are not normal. They are gods. and their judgment is not whispered over dinner. It is written in the flooding of the Nile and the movement of the stars. You are married to the pharaoh, the living Horus. This means your father-in-law is Osiris, lord of the underworld. Your mother-in-law is Isis, the great magician, the queen of heaven. Your husband's celestial family is a pantheon of powerful, temperamental, and easily offended deities, and you must spend your entire life trying to keep them happy. This is not a metaphor. The royal family is considered the earthly extension of the divine family. Your relationships are not personal, they are cosmic. A small argument with your husband is not just a domestic spat. It is a disruption of Ma'at, a ripple of disharmony that could anger the gods. The priests watch your interactions with the pharaoh with keen analytical eyes. Does the queen seem pleased? Does the king favor her today? The stability of the kingdom, they believe, depends on the harmony of your divine marriage. Imagine the pressure. You cannot have a simple disagreement. You cannot show irritation or disappointment. Your every interaction must be a performance of perfect, serene unity. Your mother-in-law is not just a woman who inspects your household. She is personified by the reigning Queen Mother, a woman who sees you as a rival for her son's affection and influence. But she is also a living symbol of Isis. To offend her is to offend the goddess herself. So you must be a perfect daughter-in-law, always respectful, always obedient, always deferential, even when she is actively plotting against you. The gods are involved in every aspect of your life. When you are trying to conceive a child, you do not just hope for the best. You perform rituals to Hathor, the goddess of fertility. You wear her amulets. You make offerings at her temples. And if you fail to conceive, it is not a medical issue. It is a sign that Hathor is displeased. The priests will be consulted. More rituals will be performed. Your personal struggle becomes a matter of state theology. Even your home is not your own. The palace is a temple. Every room is dedicated to a god. Every piece of furniture is inscribed with sacred symbols. You do not just live there, you are a custodian of a sacred space. The misery of this life is the complete absence of the personal. Your family is not your family. It is a living pantheon. Your home is not your home. It is a temple. Your marriage is not your marriage. It is a cosmic arrangement. You are surrounded by gods, but you have no one to turn to, no one to confide in. You cannot complain to your best friend about your difficult mother-in-law. Your mother-in-law is the Queen of Heaven, and she is always listening. You wake one morning with a fever. Your head throbs, your body aches, and a chill runs through you that has nothing to do with the cool morning air. For any other person in Egypt, this is a personal crisis, a matter of herbs, rest, and prayer. For you, the queen, it is a political disaster. Your illness is not a private affair. The moment a physician is summoned to your chambers, the whispers begin. The queen is unwell. The news spreads through the palace like a contagion itself. The courtiers, the priests, the rival wives, they all watch and they wait. In ancient Egypt, sickness is never just sickness. It is a sign of weakness, a sign of divine displeasure. Why has the queen fallen ill? Has she offended a god? Has her piety faltered? Is she no longer fit to be the divine consort of the pharaoh? These are not questions whispered in secret. They are openly debated by the priests who interpret the will of the heavens. Your rivals in the court seize the opportunity. A lesser wife, whose star has been rising, might make a conspicuous and very public offering at the temple of Sekhmet, the goddess of both plague and healing. The implication is clear. She is praying for the kingdom's health, a kingdom threatened by your own failing body. She positions herself as the picture of health and piety, a subtle but devastating contrast to you, the ailing queen. The pharaoh's visits become less frequent. He is a god, a symbol of life and vitality. He cannot be seen to be associated with sickness and decay. His distance is not personal cruelty. It is political necessity. But it leaves you isolated, your vulnerability exposed for all to see. Your physicians try every remedy they know. They feed you potions of honey and herbs. They place magical amulets on your body. They recite incantations to drive out the evil spirits they believe are causing your fever. But their efforts are not just for your health. They are a desperate attempt to restore your political standing. If they cannot cure you, their own positions are at risk. You lie in your bed, weak and feverish, but your mind is sharp. You know that you are in a race against time. You must recover, and you must do it quickly. You must reappear in court, your face painted, your body strong, your voice steady. You must show them all that you are still the chosen one, that the gods have not abandoned you. If you fail, if the illness lingers, your influence will wither. The pharaoh may begin to favor another wife. The council may stop seeking your advice. You will be seen as a liability, a queen whose weakness could bring misfortune to the entire nation. This is the misery of your physical existence. Your body is not your own. Its health is a reflection of your divine right to rule. And when it falters, it becomes a weapon that your enemies can use against you. Your fever is not just a fever. It is a challenge to your authority. Your cough is not just a cough. It is a crack in the foundation of your power. The calendar is a dizzying cycle of festivals. The festival of Opet, the beautiful feast of the valley. The Sed festival for the pharaoh's jubilee. From the outside, your life appears to be one long, glorious celebration. The city of Thebes is alive with music, dance, and feasting. The people line the streets, cheering as the grand processions go by. They see you, the queen, seated on a golden barge or carried in an ornate litter, a vision of divine beauty and joy. They see a performance, and that is exactly what it is. For you, these festivals are not a source of joy. They are work. They are the most demanding, exhausting, and emotionally hollow days of the year. The preparations begin weeks in advance. You must consult with the high priests to ensure every detail of the rituals is correct. You must oversee the selection of offerings, the weaving of new ceremonial robes, the composition of hymns. On the day of the festival, your performance begins at dawn. You are dressed and painted for hours, transformed into a living goddess. You must then stand or sit for hours on end under the blazing sun, your face a mask of serene bliss, while the real you is screaming from the heat, the weight of your headdress, and the sheer monotony of the proceedings. You are the center of attention, but you are not a participant. You are the object of the celebration, not one of the celebrants. You watch the common people laugh, drink, and dance. You see their genuine, uninhibited joy, and you feel a profound sense of alienation. They are celebrating the gods, and you are one of the gods they are celebrating. You are trapped on the other side of the veil, forever separated from the simple human experience of communal joy. The feast that follows is not a time for relaxation. It is a continuation of the performance. You sit at the high table, picking at exquisite food you have no appetite for. You engage in formal scripted conversations with nobles and foreign dignitaries. You must be charming, witty, and politically astute, all while your body is aching with fatigue. The misery of the festival is its emptiness. It is a grand spectacle of happiness that you must orchestrate but can never feel. The more the crowd cheers, the more isolated you become. You are surrounded by thousands of people, but you are utterly alone, a solitary figure on a golden stage. When the festival finally ends, when the last torch is extinguished and the crowds have dispersed, you return to the silence of your chambers. You are physically and emotionally drained. The cheers of the crowd still ring in your ears, but they sound hollow, like the echoes in an empty tomb. You have brought joy to your people. You have honored the gods. You have performed your duty. But you are left with nothing but a profound sense of your own isolation. For the Queen of Egypt, the greatest celebrations are the loneliest days of all. You were not born on the banks of the Nile. You came from a land of mountains and cold winters, the daughter of a Hittite king or a Mitannian lord. You were a princess in your own right, but your life was not your own. You were a piece in a political puzzle, married off to the Pharaoh of Egypt, to seal a peace treaty or a strategic alliance. You were a gift, a promise, a foreign treasure. And you will never let them forget it. From the moment you arrive in Egypt, you are an outsider. You are surrounded by a language you barely speak, by customs that are strange and bewildering, by gods whose names you cannot yet pronounce. You must shed your old identity like a snake sheds its skin. You are given a new Egyptian name. You must learn to worship the Egyptian gods, to wear Egyptian clothes, to eat Egyptian food. You must become Egyptian. But you never truly are. To the court, you are always the foreign wife. Your loyalty is always suspect. Your every action is scrutinized for signs of your foreign origins. If you offer an opinion in council that differs from the prevailing view, they whisper that it is your Hittite blood speaking, that you are secretly working for the interests of your father. You must work twice as hard as any Egyptian-born queen to prove yourself. You must be more pious, more obedient, more perfect. You learn the language flawlessly. You master the complex rituals of the temples. You bear the Pharaoh's sons. But it is never enough. You are still the woman from a strange land, the beautiful, exotic other. This otherness is both a source of fascination and a source of danger. The Pharaoh may be captivated by your foreign beauty, by the stories you tell of your homeland, but that same fascination can turn to suspicion in an instant. If a treaty with your home country falters, you are the first to be blamed. You become a scapegoat, a convenient target for the court's anxieties. You are desperately lonely. You have no family here. Your handmaidens are Egyptian spies. The other wives in the harem see you as a rival and use your foreignness against you, spreading rumors that you practice strange dark magic from your homeland. You have no one to confide in, no one who understands the world you left behind. You write letters to your family, letters that are read by palace scribes before they are sent, your words carefully censored. Their replies are infrequent, their lives a world away. You are a queen, surrounded by luxury, but you are also an exile, a permanent refugee in a golden cage. The misery of being a foreign queen is that you belong nowhere. You have given up your own culture, but you have not been fully accepted by your new one. You are a bridge between two worlds, and you are forced to live your life suspended in the empty space between them forever, a stranger, forever alone. Your body is not a private thing. It is the property of the state. From the moment you are chosen as the great royal wife, your physical form ceases to belong to you. It becomes a symbol, a vessel, an instrument of dynastic policy, and it is managed, scrutinized, and controlled with the same meticulous care as the royal treasury. Your womb is your primary function. Its sole purpose is to produce a male heir to continue the divine bloodline. Your monthly cycles are not a private matter. They are tracked by priests and physicians. Your fertility, or lack thereof, is a matter of public concern discussed in the highest councils of the state. When you are pregnant, your body becomes a sacred object guarded and managed. You are fed specific foods, forbidden from certain activities, and subjected to endless rituals, all to ensure the health of the vessel and its precious cargo. Your beauty is also a state asset. It is a reflection of the health and prosperity of the kingdom. It must be preserved at all costs. Your diet is controlled. Your exercise is monitored. Your skin is anointed with oils and creams. Your face is painted each day into the perfect impassive mask of a goddess. You are not allowed to age in a way that seems unseemly. You must be an eternal, flawless icon. Even your movements are not your own. You are taught to walk, to sit, to gesture with a slow, deliberate grace that is meant to signify your divinity. There is no room for spontaneous, joyful movement. You are a living statue, and you must move with the deliberate, measured pace of stone. This control extends to the most intimate aspects of your life. Your time with the Pharaoh is not a matter of personal affection. It is a scheduled, ritualized duty. Priests may even determine the most auspicious times for you to conceive. Your body is a tool for procreation, not a source of pleasure. And there is no bodily autonomy. You cannot cut your hair without permission. You cannot choose your own clothes. You cannot decide what you will eat for dinner. Every aspect of your physical existence is managed by others, all for the sake of the image you must project. The misery of this existence is the profound sense of disembodiment. You begin to feel disconnected from your own flesh and blood. Your body is something that is acted upon, not something you inhabit. It is a beautiful, ornate cage, and you are trapped inside it. You look at the bodies of the serving girls, their movements free and unself-conscious. You see the farmers in the fields, their bodies strong and functional, shaped by their work. And you feel a strange envy. Their bodies are their own. They are tools for living. Yours is a tool for ruling. And you realize with a deep and hollow sorrow that you have been a queen for so long, you have forgotten what it feels like to simply be a person in a body that belongs to you. When we think of an ancient Egyptian queen, the image that often comes to mind is one of serene, passive beauty. We see her standing gracefully behind her husband, the pharaoh, a supportive, silent figure in the grand tapestry of his reign. We see a consort, an ornament, a vessel for the royal bloodline, but rarely do we see a ruler in her own right. This image, crafted from centuries of art that emphasizes harmony and order, is a profound and misleading myth. The truth is that many of these women were not silent partners. They were political powerhouses, strategists, and sometimes even kings. The most glaring exception to this myth is, of course, Hatshepsut. She was not content to be a regent, ruling in the name of her young stepson. She took the throne for herself, adopted the full titulary and iconography of a male pharaoh, and ruled a prosperous Egypt for over 2 decades. She did not hide her ambition. She carved it into the walls of her magnificent temple. She was a builder, a trader, and a commander-in-chief. She was a king. Her existence alone shatters the illusion that Egyptian queens were merely decorative. Her reign proves that a woman could not only rule, but could rule successfully, presiding over an era of peace and immense architectural achievement. But she was not the only one. Consider Nefertiti, the wife of Akhenaten. In the revolutionary art of the Amarna period, she is depicted with a power and prominence that was unprecedented for a queen. She is shown at the same scale as her husband, leading religious rituals as his equal. In one famous relief, she is even shown smiting the enemies of Egypt, a classic pose of pharaonic power that was until then exclusively male. This was not a woman standing in her husband's shadow. This was a woman sharing his divine light, a co-ruler in a radical new world order. The fact that she may have even ruled as a pharaoh herself, after his death, under the name Neferneferuaten, only deepens the truth that her power was real and absolute. Even the queens who did not take the throne for themselves often wielded immense influence from behind it. Queen mothers, as the mothers of the reigning king, held a position of immense respect and authority. They advised their sons, managed vast temple estates, and often played a crucial role in the succession. Queen Tiye, the wife of Amenhotep III and mother of Akhenaten, was a formidable diplomat whose name appears on official records alongside her husband's, a sign of her significant political partnership in his reign. The myth of the submissive queen persists because history is often simplified and the complexities of female power are smoothed over. But when you look closer at the gaps in the records, at the anomalies in the art, at the stories of women like Hatshepsut, Nefertiti, and Tiye, you see the truth. The queens of Egypt were not just beautiful. They were brilliant, they were ambitious, and they were powerful. Their misery was not that they lacked power, but that they had to fight so hard to wield it, and that the men who came after them so often tried to pretend they never had it at all. The word harem conjures images from a dream, a fantasy of perfumed luxury and sensual ease. We imagine secluded courtyards filled with lotus pools, where the many wives of the pharaoh lounge on silken cushions, attended by servants their days, a gentle rhythm of music, feasting, and pleasure. We imagine a sanctuary of femininity, a place of shared sisterhood and pampered comfort. This image is a beautiful illusion. The reality of the royal harem of Egypt was far from a paradise. It was a political institution, a breeding ground for heirs, and one of the most dangerous and competitive environments in the ancient world. It was not a pleasure garden. It was a viper's nest. Its primary function was dynastic. The pharaoh took many wives to produce as many children as possible, ensuring the continuation of his bloodline. But only one son could inherit the throne, and so the harem became a silent, brutal battleground where each wife fought to ensure that her son would be the chosen one. This was not a war fought with swords, but with whispers, with alliances, with intrigue, and sometimes with poison. You, as the great royal wife, may have held the highest rank, but this only made you the biggest target. Every other woman in the harem was your rival. The foreign princesses, sent to seal treaties, brought with them their own ambitions and political connections. The daughters of powerful Egyptian nobles saw their position as a stepping stone for their family's advancement. They smiled at you, they offered you gifts, they praised your children. But you knew that behind those smiles, they were watching, waiting for you to make a single mistake. The competition was relentless. A wife's status was directly tied to her fertility, specifically her ability to produce sons. If you bore only daughters, while a lesser wife bore a healthy boy, your position would become instantly precarious. The court would begin to shift its allegiance. The pharaoh's favor might drift. The harem was a place where a woman's worth was measured by the gender of her children. Gossip was the currency of this world. A rumor could be more deadly than a dagger. A rival could whisper to the pharaoh that you were unfaithful or that you were plotting against him. She could bribe your servants to spy on you. She could even resort to magic, placing curses on you or your children, a threat that was taken with deadly seriousness in ancient Egypt. The harem was not a place of sisterhood. It was a place of factions. Women formed alliances based on their family connections, their political interests, or their shared rivalries. It was a microcosm of the court itself, a place of shifting loyalties and constant low-level psychological warfare. You had to be a master strategist to survive, to protect yourself, your children, and your position. The luxurious trappings, the fine linens, the exotic foods, the beautiful gardens were real, but they were the scenery for a play of immense tension and fear. The harem was not a retreat from the world. It was a reflection of its most brutal aspects. It was a beautiful cage filled with beautiful women, each one fighting for her life. History has not been kind to Cleopatra VII. She is perhaps the most famous queen of Egypt, but her fame comes with a heavy layer of slander. We remember her as a temptress, a femme fatale, who used her beauty and her body to ensnare two of the most powerful men in the world, Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. The popular image shaped by Roman propaganda and immortalized by Shakespeare and Hollywood is of a woman who ruled from her bedchamber, her power derived not from her mind, but from her allure. This is a profound and deliberate misreading of one of the most brilliant political minds of antiquity. To reduce Cleopatra to a mere seductress is to fall for the very propaganda that her enemies used to destroy her. The reality is that Cleopatra was a formidable ruler in her own right long before she met either Caesar or Antony. She was highly educated, a true intellectual. The ancient writer Plutarch notes that she spoke at least 9 languages fluently, and she was the first Ptolemaic ruler in 300 years to bother learning the Egyptian language, a move that earned her the loyalty of her native subjects. She was a published author, having written treatises on medicine and cosmetics. She was a skilled mathematician and a savvy administrator who managed an economy that was for a time one of the richest in the Mediterranean. Her relationships with Caesar and Antony were not the whims of a lovesick woman. They were calculated acts of political survival. Cleopatra inherited a kingdom that was already crumbling, a client state teetering on the edge of being absorbed by the ever-expanding power of Rome. She knew she could not defeat Rome with military force, so she decided to join it, or rather to use its own internal power struggles to her advantage. Her alliance with Caesar was a masterstroke. She recognized him as the future of Rome, and she made herself his indispensable ally. Yes, they became lovers, and she bore him a son, Caesarion. But their partnership was primarily political. She provided him with the immense wealth of Egypt to fund his civil wars, and in return, he secured her throne against her rivals, including her own brother. After Caesar's assassination, she did not crumble. She pivoted. She saw in Mark Antony a new potential partner, a man who could challenge Caesar's heir Octavian. Their legendary love affair was real, a passionate and intense bond. But it was also a strategic alliance. Together, they dreamed of creating a new Hellenistic empire in the East with Alexandria as its capital, a powerful counterbalance to the growing dominance of Rome. She was not his mistress. She was his political and military partner. She commanded her own fleet at the Battle of Actium. It was Octavian, the cold and calculating victor, who crafted the myth of Cleopatra the seductress. In his propaganda war against Antony, he portrayed her as a decadent, immoral foreign queen who had bewitched a noble Roman general and threatened the very fabric of Roman virtue. It was a powerful and effective lie, one that justified his war and delegitimized his female rival. The misery of Cleopatra's legacy is that the lies of her enemies have outlived the truth of her brilliance. She was not a woman who used sex to gain power. She was a queen who used her immense intellect, her political savvy, and every tool at her disposal, including her relationships, to fight for the survival of her kingdom in a world that was determined to swallow it whole. The world of ancient Egypt presents us with a fascinating paradox when it comes to women and power. On one hand, it was a civilization that worshipped powerful goddesses. Isis was the throne of Egypt, the divine mother, the clever magician who resurrected her own husband. Sekhmet was the lion-headed goddess of war and vengeance, a force of terrifying, untamable power. Hathor was the goddess of love, beauty, and joy, a central figure in the lives of both men and women. The divine world was filled with female energy, and this was reflected to a degree in mortal society. Unlike in many other ancient cultures, Egyptian women had significant legal rights. They could own property, inherit land, run businesses, and initiate divorce proceedings. The royal bloodline was often traced matrilineally through the queen. A pharaoh's legitimacy was strengthened by his marriage to a woman of royal blood. In this sense, women were not just appendages to power, they were the conduits of it. And yet for all this, the ultimate expression of power, the kingship, was profoundly and rigidly male. The pharaoh was the living Horus, the son of Ra, the bull of his mother. The ideology of kingship was steeped in masculine symbolism. A woman could be the mother of a king, the wife of a king, the daughter of a king, but she could not be the king. This is the contradiction that defined the lives of royal women. They were revered as divine symbols, but constrained by mortal traditions. They were given immense soft power influence in the court, authority in religious matters, control over vast estates. But the hard power, the absolute authority of the throne, was kept just out of their reach. The women who tried to cross that line, like Hatshepsut, did so by adopting the male role entirely. She did not rule as a queen. She ruled as a king with the false beard and the masculine titles. It was the only way the system could comprehend her authority. But even this was seen as a temporary, necessary aberration. And the backlash, the attempt to erase her from history, was a violent reaffirmation of the traditional order. The misery for these brilliant, ambitious women was living within this paradox. They were raised to be powerful, educated, to be leaders, and revered as goddesses. But they were also constantly reminded of the limits of their gender. They had to wield their power from behind a veil of submission, to rule through their husbands and sons, to accept that their own names would always be secondary. It is a timeless struggle, one that echoes through the centuries. The story of the queens of Egypt is not just an ancient one. It is the story of powerful women navigating a world that is both in awe of their strength and deeply afraid of it. A world that gives them a seat near the throne, but never on it. After this long, slow journey through the gilded cages and silent sorrows of the queens of Egypt, a question lingers in the quiet air. Why do we have to dig so hard to find their stories? Why are their lives so often reduced to footnotes in the grand history of their husbands and sons? We have seen the miseries they endured, the pressure for an heir that defined their worth, the physical terror of childbirth without modern medicine, the political battlefield of the harem, where every smile was a potential plot, the loneliness of command, the burden of divinity, and the constant gnawing fear of being sidelined, forgotten, or erased. Their lives were dramas of immense scale and profound emotional depth. So why has so much of it been buried? Part of the answer lies in the nature of the historical record itself. History is a story told by the survivors, and in a patriarchal world, the survivors who get to write the official narrative are almost always men. The scribes who carved the inscriptions, the priests who maintained the king, lists the later historians who compiled the chronicles, they focused on the deeds of the pharaohs, the wars, the monuments, the divine decrees. The lives of the women, even the most powerful queens, were often seen as part of the domestic private sphere, not worthy of the same grand public record. But there was also a more deliberate process of erasure. As we saw with Hatshepsut, when a woman's power became too great, when it challenged the traditional order, it was often intentionally scrubbed from history. Her monuments were defaced, her name removed, her legacy buried. This was not an accident. It was a political act, a way of restoring an order that her reign had threatened. The silence that surrounds the fate of Nefertiti and her daughters may be the result of a similar, though less documented, backlash. The misery of their legacy is not just that they suffered in life, but that their suffering, their strength, their stories were so often deemed unimportant or dangerous by the generations that followed. We are left with fragments: a desperate letter found in a foreign archive, a defaced statue buried in a pit, a name that disappears without explanation. We must piece their lives together, like archaeologists reassembling a shattered pot. And in doing so, we honor them. We refuse to let them be forgotten. We listen for their voices in the silence. Perhaps the greatest misery of all is not the pain these queens endured while they lived, but the profound injustice of the forgetting that came after. As you lie here now in the quiet of your own room, you are a world away from their struggles. But in remembering them, in giving their stories a space to breathe in the darkness, you are performing a small act of justice. You are pushing back against the silence. You are helping to unbury a legacy that the sands of time have tried and failed to keep hidden forever. And so the story of the Queen of Egypt ends as it began, in a silent, gilded room, waiting. Whether she was a brilliant ruler like Hatshepsut, a revolutionary beauty like Nefertiti, or a desperate survivor like Ankhesenamun, her fate was ultimately governed by a brutal and unbreakable cycle. She was born into power. She did not ask for married for reasons that had nothing to do with her heart, and forced to bear children whose lives were not her own. She navigated a world of whispers, where every friend was a potential rival and every meal a potential threat. She learned to speak the language of power, a language of subtlety, manipulation, and veiled threats. She performed her sacred duties with flawless grace. Her body a vessel for the gods, her face a mask of serene divinity. She was worshipped, she was feared, she was revered. But in the end, her power was always conditional, always borrowed. It was tied to the life of her husband, the pharaoh. It was dependent on the gender of her children. It was subject to the shifting whims of the court and the unyielding judgment of the priests. She could build temples, advise generals, and shape the course of the empire, but she could not change the fundamental truth of her existence. She was a woman in a man's world, a queen in a kingdom that ultimately belonged to its king. When her husband died, she was left vulnerable. When her son took the throne, her influence began to fade. And when she herself died, her legacy was left in the hands of the men who followed men who might choose to honor her or to erase her. It was a life of immense privilege and profound misery, a story of power and powerlessness forever intertwined. Their names were written on stone, but their fates were written in sand, easily washed away by the relentless tides of time and tradition. Look at the grand king lists, carved in the temples of Abydos and Karnak. You see an unbroken line of male rulers, a seamless succession of gods on earth stretching back into the mists of time. It is a story of order, of stability, of a power that is masculine, absolute, and eternal. But it is a lie. The story is full of holes, of gaps, of silences. The names of the queens are missing. The reigns of women like Hatshepsut are skipped over. The struggles of women like Cleopatra are rewritten as tales of moral failure. The official history is a curated narrative, one designed to uphold the cosmic order, an order where a woman's power is an anomaly, a disruption to be corrected and forgotten. The true history of Egypt is not just in the grand monuments, it is in the spaces between them. It is in the defaced statues, the empty cartouches, the tombs that have never been found. It is in the stories that were not written down, the whispers that were not recorded, the sorrows that were not given a voice. The misery of the queens of Egypt was not just the personal pain they endured, it was the knowledge that their stories might not survive. They lived lives of immense consequence, but they were often denied a place in the memory of the nation they helped to build. They were the architects of dynasties, the guardians of traditions, the mothers of kings. And yet, they were treated as footnotes in a story that should have been their own. They were the heart of the empire, but a heart that was expected to beat in silence. They were the power behind the throne, but a power that was meant to remain in the shadows. And so they have become ghosts, beautiful, and tragic figures haunting the edges of history, their true stories buried, waiting to be rediscovered. And so, as the dust settles over the Valley of the Queens, you are left with a question that drifts through the millennia like a whisper on the desert wind. Was it worth it? Would you make that trade? To exchange a simple, ordinary life for one of extraordinary power, knowing that power came with a heavy golden chain, to be worshipped by millions, but known by no one. To live in a palace of breathtaking beauty, knowing its walls were also your prison, to be a goddess, but to sacrifice the woman you were meant to be. It is easy to romanticize their lives, to see only the gold, the power, the art. But you have walked through the shadows of their existence now. You have felt the weight of their crowns, the coldness of their lonely chambers, the constant gnawing fear of betrayal and erasure. You have understood that for every moment of public glory, there were 1,000 moments of private misery. We live in a world of different fears. We worry about deadlines. They worried about poison. We fear public speaking. They feared being wiped from the annals of time itself. Our struggles are real, but they are the struggles of people who are, for the most part, free to choose their own path. They were not. Their path was chosen for them by birth, by gender, by the unyielding demands of a civilization that saw them as symbols, not souls. It is a choice that is impossible to comprehend fully, but in asking the question, we do them a great honor. We acknowledge their humanity. We see them not just as beautiful faces on a tomb wall, but as complex, intelligent, and resilient women who navigated a world of impossible pressures with a strength we can only imagine. The story of the Queens of Egypt is not just a story about the past. It is a story about power, about gender, about the ways in which societies both elevate and constrain women. It is a story that is still being told in different forms, in different places, even today. The pressures these women faced, to be perfect, to be beautiful, to be strong, but not too strong to lead, without appearing to lead, these are distant echoes of struggles that are still familiar. The expectation that a woman's worth is tied to her children, that her ambition is a threat, that her story is secondary to a man's. These are ghosts that still haunt our own world. In remembering these queens, we do more than just learn about history. We learn about ourselves. We see the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable constraints. We see the enduring power of women to shape the world even from within the shadows. And we are reminded that history is not a settled thing. It is a living conversation. And it is our duty to keep listening for the voices that have been silenced, to keep searching for the stories that have been buried. Because in those forgotten stories, we often find the most profound truths about who we were and who we are. But their world of stone and sun is no longer yours. The weight of their crowns is lifted. The scent of incense and fear fades from the air. The echoes of the temple chants grow quiet. You are not in a palace on the banks of the Nile. You are not kneeling on cool marble, your body heavy with gold. You are here now in the quiet of your own space. You are lying in a soft bed, a gentle weight of a blanket over you. The air around you is still and calm. The only sound is the soft, steady hum of the fan, a gentle mechanical whisper that has nothing to say. There are no whispers in the dark corners of your room. There are no plots being hatched in the hallways. There are no gods watching your every move, judging your every thought. You are not a queen fighting for a throne, or a mother praying for a son. You are not a goddess trapped in a human body. You are simply you, and you are safe. Feel the gentle rise and fall of your own breath, in and out, a simple, easy rhythm. It is your own. It carries no weight, no duty, no cosmic significance. It is just the quiet, beautiful music of your own life. The story is over. The ghosts have returned to their silent tombs, and you are left with only the darkness, the quiet, and the gentle pull of sleep. Let go of the gold. Let go of the fear. Let go of the long, slow river of time. There is nothing left to do. There is nothing left to be. There is only this moment, this quiet, this peace. And now, it is time to sleep.